Hey everyone, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and it's another live look at the astrology of this week. And it's August 31st to September 6th, 2020. Yes, we are about to enter September, so it's hard to believe. Here we are, another month in 2020. Time seems a bit strange at the moment, but this is our weekly check-in. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how August was for you, how you navigated a lot of ups and downs with the astrology, and let me know where you're watching or listening from, because this Sagittarius rising can't travel. So I have to sort of do my best and travel through you all. So just want to introduce myself again for those who don't know who I am. My name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. And I've been creating under the name Empowering Astrology since 2010. Hard to believe. But we've only been doing this live broadcast for a little over a year, so now we get to interface face to face. But I have a particular look on astrology, and this is one of the things that we do every week. We get together, we look at the astrology, we get a sense of maybe archetypically, energetically, what we are collectively navigating. And it's been some very interesting astrology this year, and I get this all the time. In fact, I got a comment on my website, empoweringastrology.com. When is the astrology going to get easier? I actually get this, friends from around the world are like, Katie, what is up with the astrology? When is it going to get easier? And I say this a lot. We are in a time when humanity has to change. Humanity needs to make different decisions, and humanity needs to become aware of itself. We need to become more aware of ourselves. So the astrology, as it's been each year, a little bit more intense, But with that energy comes potentially, if we use it, and this is sort of the mission of Empowering Astrology, is to use this energy to deepen ourselves, to open ourselves, to become aware of ourselves, to become the people that we need to be at this time in humanity, because we need good people at this time. But I was thinking about this because, and I mentioned this in my newsletter, I mentioned this, in Friday's update on empoweringastrology.com, or even on my Facebook page. I got locked out of my Instagram account, and I have to admit, I kind of lost my stuff a little bit, because there was like a little bit of this panic. I switched cell phone carriers from a major US carrier to Google Fi, so I could just not spend as much money, because I'm always at home. Why spend all that money? But anyway, because I made that change, I couldn't get into my Instagram account because of the two-factor authentication, because it was saying that my phone number was no longer recognized as valid by my carrier. So I'm sharing this with you all. One, to tell you that I'm back on my Instagram account as of this morning, which now I feel like all is like okay in the land. And if you're watching this on the IGTV, now you get to watch it on IGTV. I was kind of afraid that I wasn't going to be able to share this with you all this week, but it brought up a lot of deep anxieties and fears around loss of control. Now, a lot of people don't know this about me. I actually have a nearly 20-year background in IT. I can code. I mean, maybe not so much anymore. I'm really kind of rusty, self-taught coder. I know my way around computers. I built my website, do all the stuff. So I'm not fazed by technology, but this was like one thing that I couldn't even be smart about. I couldn't troubleshoot and outmaneuver myself. I just had to sort of wait and surrender, which is a good sort of segue into this week's astrology. But I'm sharing this because if something simple triggers you this week, or has been triggering you, or will trigger you, and you're having a really outsized reaction, like my kind of personal, quiet, internal meltdown was my sign that, hey, there might be something deeper that's coming up that has to be revealed. So this was what I was using for my own personal work. This is what we call shadow work. But this is kind of a personal reveal, is that these are intense times, that these things like control issues, feeling safe, making changes are going to press buttons because we're humans. But the goal is so that these buttons, these old buttons that we have, don't take us off of ourselves so quickly. And I kind of lost myself a little bit this weekend. I was like, wow, this is really pushing some deep stuff. But like I said, I'm back in as of this morning. All is well in the land. That said, I was talking a lot about surrender. So as we go into this week's astrology, we're on the cusp of a Pisces full moon. So we're going to have a Pisces full moon on September 2nd at 1:22 a.m. New York time. I don't have the times for the different time zones around the world, but it will be the 1st of September on the west coast of the United States, and it'll be the 2nd of September in other places in the world. But Pisces, now, as we start this week, the moon right now is in Aquarius. Aquarius and Pisces, they form what are called the last two signs of the zodiac. When you get to the end of the zodiac, you're starting to deal with things that are bigger than the self, bigger than the individual. If the moon in Aquarius is all about our friends and social networks and groups and even things like society, humanity, social causes, social equity, social justice, how we treat each other, these kind of bigger Aquarian themes, how do we feel connected or disconnected or lack of humanity? Because every sign in the zodiac and every planet has two sides to it. A side that can either connect and build and create, or a side that can disconnect, tear down, and destroy. It's just the duality of life. So we sort of can see the two sides of Pisces. So as we go into this week, we're at these two signs that are dealing with these things that are bigger than us. Humanity is certainly a big concept, collective, the things that unite us, the things that are bigger than us. Now, when the moon goes into Pisces tomorrow on Tuesday, September 1st, and then we have the Pisces full moon in the early hours of September 2nd. A full moon, it highlights something. It's sort of this need for action, a need to make a decision, make a left or a right. There's a sense of something being fully illuminated that wasn't illuminated before. So this Pisces full moon, it's in a sign that talks about collective emotion, collective feeling. It's not what I feel, it's what we all feel. It's what connects all of us. Pisces is the sign of empathy, compassion, forgiveness, spirituality. But as I was saying a few moments ago, all signs have two sides. And so the other side of Pisces is feeling lost, feeling emotionally separated, lonely. There's really kind of deep emotions that can sometimes fill us up and paralyze us. And also even Pisces can speak to, on the negative side, the shadow side, it can speak to substance and substance abuse. But Pisces ultimately is a sign that wants us to connect to something higher. In this case, it's not humanity. It's the divine, it's the creator, it's source. And even if that's something that you're a little on the fence about, there is something that we can feel. It's emotions, it's the sea of emotions, it's vibes, it's how something half across the world can happen and then ripples across the collective. It's how somebody's death can stir us in ways that we wouldn't even think that we would be stirred, because this is a stranger. And this is something that speaks as a very Piscean theme. It's that reminds us that we're all one, we're all connected. So as we go into Tuesday, September 2nd, we might be feeling strong emotions. We might be suddenly aware of the things that connect us emotionally, that we have a shared humanity, we have a shared emotional body, and that my emotions and my feelings and maybe my temper tantrum, Mars is in Aries right now, is not separate from anything else in the world because we're all connected. So this full moon, you might have to make some decisions. You might see something for what it really is. And Jupiter, the ruler of the full moon, is over in Capricorn. So Capricorn's kind of a sign of serious business. We have to sort of get real. We have to get sober. We have to make decisions. We have to get order and structure and balance. And by the way, we've had 3 planets in Capricorn all year long, these kind of really strong forces of Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn. So this sort of touches on some themes that maybe we've been visiting at different points throughout this year. Pisces is also faith, but it's a type of faith that you can't read in books. It's a type of faith that somebody can't teach you or you can't find in the world. You have to find it within. And this is why Pisces is a sign of mysticism. It's the inner faith, inner meaning, inner truth. So it's also a sign that really wants us to maybe reflect or meditate this week. So I'm just going to quickly go around the zodiac so you know where this Pisces full moon is highlighting for you. So if you are an Aries, this is highlighting exactly what I've just been talking about because you have what's called a natural chart, little technical side note. So this for you, spirituality, forgiveness, compassion, letting go, very intense emotions, maybe things around dreams, maybe things around intuition, mysticism, past lives. So these things that might be sort of coming up into your psyche, but this is also a call for you to let go. And since, by the way, the sun's in Virgo right now, and a full moon is always when the moon is in the sign opposite of where the sun is. Little fun fact for your astrology students here. Because the sun's in Virgo right now, maybe this is when you do need to let go of an attachment or an addiction. So this is a very perfect full moon for that. Moving on to Taurus, this is in your sign of friends, community, social circle, the people that you ally yourself with. So this is a full moon when you have to sort of see your social circle, your social network for what it is, and maybe needing to take some action. Because I will say full moons, they do sort of, there's a sense of urgency, there's a sense of action, there's a sense of crisis sometimes with a full moon, and so there's a sense of urgency and a sort of sense of action in your social circle or your community. It's a full moon when you're needing to look ahead and think about the future, maybe even dream or envision the future because it's Pisces. Gemini, so this is in your career sign. So full moons, when they are at the, let's say, the highest point in your chart, this is about your standing in the world, your direction, the title that you have after your name, how people see you, how you want to see yourself. So this is a full moon that's very visible for you, Gemini. This is a full moon that might correlate with changes in your professional life, from a change in direction, a change in job, new things coming in, or needing to take on new responsibilities. Cancer, this is the part of your chart that talks about faith and truth, but in a very different way than we've been talking about. I talked about Pisces as inner faith, as inner truth. And in this case, this part of your chart talks about needing to seek out truth and faith and wisdom in out in the world, and maybe in different philosophies, religion, or travel, or searching. And I know that we're not doing a lot of travel right now, but this is a really philosophical, subjective full moon for you. Maybe you're looking at different cultures, different ways of thinking, in order to make sense of your world right now. And in normal times, maybe this would be a full moon when it's coinciding with a big trip abroad. Leo. So this is the part of your chart that talks about really diving into the deepest parts of yourself. And we all have that one part in our chart that talks about the deepest, most hidden parts of our emotions, our psyche, needing to do psychological healing, focus on psychological health. This might be kind of bringing some things up that are a little sticky, maybe you need to deal with. things from the past, things around vulnerability, trust, boundaries, letting people in, not letting people in. This full moon also touches on, because this part of the chart is also about finance. It's also about assets, the things that you own with people, the wealth that you build, the wealth that you don't have, the debt, needing to sort out very kind of practical financial concerns at this time, such as loans. Leo followed by Virgo. So this full moon, happy birthday, Virgo, by the way. This full moon is in your relationship sign. So you have to make some decisions about a relationship. And this does include all relationships, but of course it does include primary romantic partnerships. So this might be a natural time when you and a partner, there's something that's more event oriented, you need to go in a different direction, not necessarily a bad direction, it's a different direction. Or if there is a underlying relationship issue that needs your attention, the full moon might put a bright spotlight on it. But this full moon sort of correlates with sort of these changes of seasons for you. It's also, like I said, your birthday. So this is a time when it's more about socializing, interacting with other people, and usually that's what happens this time of year. Anyway, Libra. So this is the part of your chart that talks about your health, your wellness, how you take care of your body. And with Pisces being in this part of your chart that does talk about your physical being, you are somebody that's very sensitive. You're sensitive to foods. Maybe you have some allergies. But you are looking at maybe the foods that you're eating, maybe how you're taking care of your body, the work that you're doing, maybe needing to de-stress. Pisces is a sign that does like to take it easy, or to be quiet, or to withdraw from the world. So maybe you're having to kind of get some checkups, or if you can, of course, maybe get an appointment for some sort of treatment, or if you can go to the spa, maybe there's that, but I know not everybody can do that right now. Scorpio, this is the part of your chart that talks about how you express yourself, how you create, how you identify your persona, your self-expression, children, fun, romance. So this puts a spotlight on aspects of you and how you share and you highlight what makes you unique compared to others, and also maybe romance, also maybe children, also creative projects as well, and really knowing the value and worth, because Jupiter is over in Capricorn of who you are. Moving on to Sagittarius. So this is the part of your chart that talks about home and family and roots and foundation, and how in order to have a place in the world, to have ambition, to have a professional life, because the sun right now is in the top of your chart, you need to make sure your home base is rock solid. So maybe you're having to tend to your living space, your living environment, you're making changes in the home, you're moving, maybe your inner world, your inner sanctum, your family, your pod. By the way, that's a thing now. I don't have a pod, I'm just a pod of one. Anyway, so you have to sort of find your pod, get your people together as the best that you can right now. And also there's maybe some really strong emotions coming up, and maybe even strong emotions about the past. And this is the part of your chart that does talk about past and memory. Capricorn. So this is the part of your chart that talks about your voice, how you communicate your ideas, information, learning, classes, education, trips, travel, short travel around town in the neighborhood. So this is a full moon where information is very highlighted, and making sure that you're getting the right information. Maybe this is information that's coming more from an intuitive place, because Pisces is more intuitive than it is analytical and linear. We kind of think Capricorn is this sort of rigid earth sign with Saturn as its ruler, but its third house, the house of communication, is Pisces. So it actually is quite intuitive. It does follow its gut instincts, its hunches. So you might have to make a big decision as well. Sometimes when the full moon shows up in this part of the chart, there's a need to, like, is it a left or is it a right? Like making a big decision, especially with Jupiter in Capricorn, your sign. So this is really big decisions. These are decisions that may set your course for the next 12 years. No pressure, right? Aquarius, this is the part of your chart that talks about how you earn a living, your income, your salary, what you value, what you spend your money on, material resources, material needs. So it's really much about your material life right now. And this full moon sort of makes you need to make some decisions about how you're earning a living. I know we live in kind of some difficult times right now, so this full moon might bring some needed information about that part of your life, needing to make some decisions about, do you earn a living in a different way? And with it being Pisces, you need to make sure that how you're earning a living really feeds your heart and your soul, because Pisces is such a spiritual sign. Last but not least, Pisces. So this full moon, the spotlight is on you. So this is a time to be, get recognized, to sort of be visible in some way. Maybe this is a time when the sun is in your relationship sign, so it has to do with relationships and how you are connecting to people and how you're socializing and interacting. But this might be one of those moons for you that's very event-oriented for this year. So when we have a full moon in our sign, it tends to be a bit event-oriented, meaning something is going on. Life's not quiet. Things are happening. So that's a look at the full moon in Pisces in each of the 12 signs. And I just saw Judy's comment about the pod broadcast. Like, yeah, you all are my pod. Thank you for joining me every week here on Facebook or IGTV, also on Spotify. You can also watch this on YouTube, of course, or my website, empoweringastrology.com. But we're not done with the look at this week's astrology. So on the same day as the full moon, Venus opposes Saturn. So Venus has been in Cancer for a few weeks by now, and as it has been moving through Cancer, it's been making an opposition to Jupiter, which it did last week, and then followed by an opposition to Pluto, which it did yesterday, Sunday. And then it's going to make an opposition to Saturn. So it's going to go in boom, boom, boom with all these planets in Capricorn. And Venus opposite Saturn is very much like it's either worth it or not worth it. This relationship is worth it or not worth it. This thing that I want to buy is worth it or not worth it. Capricorn can set very hard boundaries in relationships. You're treating me well or you're treating me not well, but you have to make a decision, because Saturn doesn't want inequity. Saturn doesn't want imbalance. A partnership, Saturn is exalted in Libra, let us not forget. That's an intermediate point for my astrology students out there. What does Saturn want? It wants balance. It wants Libra. It wants connection. It wants equity. It wants fairness. And if you don't have that right now in a relationship, it doesn't matter if it's a friendship or a romantic partnership, Saturn is going to be like, all right, what are we doing? Making a left or a right? Is it a yes or a no? So Saturn can sort of set a hard boundary, and this is happening at the same time as the full moon, so this might be sort of woven into our experiences. So that's happening. Speaking of which, we do have some, and Venus will switch signs this week, but before Venus switches signs, Mercury, which is rounding out its way through Virgo right now, Mercury will first make what's called a square to the lunar nodes, and this is on, I believe it's the 3rd of September. And when a planet squares the nodes, there's a sense of like we're at a turning point where we have to make a decision. Maybe there's a sense of, well, it's a decision because it's Mercury. Ideas, choices, information feel fated. The nodes, they talk about the experiences, the choices, the interactions that mark our life, that sort of send us, maybe sometimes suddenly, in a very different way. I sort of jumped the gun a little bit when I wrote about today's astrology. I said that we were at the bending, which Mercury is at the bending, which means it's squaring the lunar nodes, but the sun is not going to be at the bending until 2 weeks from now. But what I was trying to say, even though I said it a little bit too early, when we get to the bending, which means we're at the midpoint between eclipses. So we had eclipses the beginning of June, near the end of June on the solstice, and then the beginning of July. Eclipses, they happen every 6 months. They sort of mark the story arc of our life. Well, this full moon on September 2nd, followed by the Virgo new moon on the 17th of September, both those lunations, they kind of plug us into the lunar eclipse on November 30th and the solar eclipse on December 14th. So there may be stuff happening in September or even this week that sort of thread their way into experiences later this year. So astrology makes more sense in the hindsight. It's just kind of the nature of humanity. So write down what's been going on. Write down your interactions. Put it in your digital calendar. Write it in your journal, so you can go back and be like, okay, beginning of September, what's the sort of common narrative of what's happening later this year. So I kind of point that out as a little aside, but Mercury does leave Virgo. It goes into Libra on September 5th. Mercury in Libra is a little bit of a new time for Virgo season. It's more about a new season, new beginnings, needing to kind of create a little bit more material structure in our life. We're sort of, believe it or not, by getting ready for autumn here in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, you're starting to get ready for spring. So we're sort of getting to that last stretch before the equinox later this month as things start to go into Libra. And then on September 6th, Venus goes, on Sunday, September 6th, Venus goes into Leo. So Venus is sort of behind the sun right now. It did have that retrograde in in May and June. And so it's been in Cancer, as I was saying. It's been making some kind of stressful oppositions as it gets to the end of Cancer. It goes into Leo, and it's a very different kind of shift. You know, Venus in Cancer is what we love and what we value. It's how we connect and socialize. It's how we problem solve, in the sense of like, how do we find the solution that benefits everybody? It's compromise. And in Cancer, what we love, what we value is nostalgia. It's nostalgic. It reflects on the past. It wants emotional connection. It wants comfort. It wants to feel loved, and it wants to feel safe. And it goes into Leo, in the sign of creativity, the sign of the sun. It wants to be adored. It wants to be regal. It wants to be put on a pedestal. It wants to be creative. Venus in Leo is very creative. It does have a little bit of a reputation for some diva-like behavior, but it's just Venus acting like the sun. Leo, sign of the sun. I love Venus in Leo. I think Venus in Leo is a lot of fun, and we could use some fun in this kind of crazy 2020 year that we're in. So there's kind of this kind of love, romance, Venus in Leo. Venus will be in Leo until the early October. But that's your look at the astrology this week. Just kind of go through the comments, and I see some familiar faces. Hello from New Zealand, hello from Sydney, hello from California, and nice to see you all again. Thank you for being part of my pod, pod of one. I was like, this is the time that we're living in. It's like you have a pod, or you don't have a pod. And I'm like, how do I fix this? But you know, lot of things happening this year, a lot of changes, and there's some good things that are happening this year. I think that with the pressure of what's going on, maybe for some of you, I can only speak from personal experience. I'm really trying to use this time as a ferment for some deep internal work and some deep changes. So hopefully that inspires you to do so as well, because as my spirit guide said in March, they said the people we were in February do not exist anymore. And so it's very strong words, but the more that we can be at peace with that and start to build something new, the better. So again, thank you for joining me this week for your live look at the astrology of August 31st to September 6, 2020. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. You can watch the replay on YouTube, IGTV, listen to me on Spotify, and of course, you can book a consultation with me. I do private one-on-one consultations. I know some of you who are watching are my clients. Do drop me a line. Always into answering astrology questions for future broadcasts, of course, questions that benefit us all. And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about next week because Mars is going to be going retrograde, and I have all these thoughts about Mars retrograde, which is going to be until November 13th. But until then, have a wonderful week and stay safe and take care. Bye.